WH questions will involve some more movement, and what WH questions specifically do is they prompt a part of the sentence and they ask for more details. So if I say Mark is designing dresses made of tacos, there's a couple things I can ask about this. I can say what, or I can say who is designing dresses made of tacos. I can target Mark, or I can target the thing that he's making, and I can say, what is Mark designing? So in the first case, who is designing dresses made of tacos? We've essentially taken Mark, we've eliminated the name, we've replaced it with who, and then we've done some movement out front. It might not seem like movement needs to happen in this case, but for consistency, it will. Now, in the case of what does Janet love way too much, for Janet loves dogs way too much, we do see auxiliary movement for a yes-no question. So first yes-no movement's happening, and then the thing that we're questioning is being moved from its original noun phrase direct object position, and now we have the WH question forming. So in WH questions, we can see two different types of movement. What you will notice is that there is a slight difference between how these operate. So in the case of a subject moving, if a subject moves, we do not need to move the first auxiliary element. But if anything else moves, we do need to be moving that first auxiliary element up to the front. So here's the types of WH words we're going to see. We have interrogative pronouns and interrogative determiners. So for interrogative pronouns, like what did you do last summer? So this is saying you did do something last summer. So something is originating here, and what's happening is it's being moved up to the front. Or whose cell phone is that? So you can say, this cell phone is mine. But what's happening here is this is acting as a determiner for the noun phrase. Now we also have for adverbials, so these are going to be hosted under NP adverbials for the most part, and these are things like how much, where, when, how. So these ask questions that adverbials would answer. And how much is a two-word interrogative pronoun adverbial in this case. So we're going to show the process, and we're going to show a lot of examples in the next little bit. So we'll show the first process here for interrogative pronouns. So we're going to ask first about the direct object. So we're going to start with the sentence, Sherlock Holmes solved the mystery. Now there's two things here. So first, we're moving a direct object. We're asking about that. So we're going to need an auxiliary element. So first, we're adding the auxiliary. So solved becomes did solve. And then the thing we're questioning, the mystery, is being replaced with a WH word. Now at this point, two things of movement occurs. First, the auxiliary moves up to the front, and then the WH word moves up to the front, and then you have your final answer, final question. So this is what this process looks like. Sherlock Holmes tried to solve the mystery. This is our base form. Now, what we're lacking here is an auxiliary phrase for movement. So we're going to add that in. So Sherlock Holmes did try to solve the mystery. So we've introduced the auxiliary phrase, so now we have something to move, and we've also done replacement. The noun phrase direct object has been replaced with an interrogative pronoun for what. Now both of these are going to move. So first, the auxiliary is moving to the interrogative sentence first, and then the direct object is moving up to the interrogative sentence for what. And this is how you have your final question. This is all the movement involved. So hopefully you're able to follow that process. It's very cool when you get the handle on it. I love question formation, and a lot of the stuff coming up has movement in it, and it's just so cool. Let's show off some more examples of interrogative WH words. So when we ask about subjects, we don't need to do any auxiliary. So Sherlock Holmes solved the mystery. Who solved the mystery? And then we move it up to the front. Basically what's happening is that this bit right here, let's see if I can move this down to get rid of some space. This bit right here, covering everything, is the sentence. So we do want movement because we do want to know that we're in an interrogative. And the only way you can get something in an interrogative sentence is if you do movement. So this is why even for subjects, when it looks like the position's staying in the same way, we want to do movement because we want consistency. We want the interrogative sentence to be where question words are hosted. So who tried to solve the mystery? what we would see in this case is the noun phrase subject originally moving up into the position underneath the interrogative sentence, and everything else would be exactly as you expect. Tried to solve the mystery, nothing fancy is happening there. What about an adverbial? So with adverbials, we need the same thing. Sherlock Holmes solved the mystery after 2 weeks. What we need is we need the auxiliary for do support, and we need to do double movement. So we need to do movement of the auxiliary and also movement of the adverbial. So these are words like when, where, why, how, or how much. So we can posit a starting place. So Sherlock Holmes did try to solve the mystery. And what this would be like a prepositional phrase adverbial or an adverb phrase adverbial or a noun phrase adverbial. Who knows what it is, depending on what it starts out as. And it just moves up to the front. So adverbials, they can of course occur before the verb, in between the verb and the infinitive phrase. They can occur in a lot of different positions, but it's just going to move from wherever it starts from. And if you don't know where it starts from originally, you can just pick a position at the end of the verb phrase. Now, with the determiners, very similar thing is happening. Which Netflix series was Jim watching? From Jim was watching a Netflix series. We're still going to have movement of the auxiliary. We're going to have movement of the entire direct object. But in this case, we're only replacing the determiner. We're not replacing the main noun. So in this case, which Netflix series was Jim watching? So Jim was watching some Netflix series. So which Netflix series? The entire noun phrase is being moved up to the front, just like always, and the progressive in its original position is being moved to support it because we're not moving a subject. Okay, so here's a question. What is the category and function of the highlighted phrases? So all of these are interrogative pronouns, but what I'm asking for is what is the function of the noun phrase that's hosting it? Was it originally a subject, a direct object, an adverbial? What was it? So pause the video, try it yourself, and now let's go over the solutions. So who do you want me to speak to in order to fix things? We see who do. So I see a who word and an auxiliary, so this means there's been movement. So we need to think about the original sentence. So you want me to speak to someone. So you want me to speak to someone, that's where it originally came, which means that this noun phrase, this who word, is an object of a preposition originally. You wanted me to speak to someone in order to fix things. To someone, object of preposition. Okay, where are you taking me? This is just a question that asks for like time or location. So I know right away this is an adverbial. It's a where, when, why word. Okay. What is everyone eating for dinner tonight? Okay, so everyone is eating something. So is happened to move up after everyone, and then we're eating something. So everyone is eating something for dinner, so that what is or the original direct object. Who did you give a drink to? So you did give a drink to someone. So the who originally is coming after to, so this is going to be an object of a preposition. And now in the final one, sorry, never mind, that's not an object. Yes, that is an object of a preposition in this case. If we said, here, I'm going to give you an alternative sentence here. Call this for time. To whom did you give a drink? If we had this sentence, then this would be a noun phrase indirect object. Sorry, not a noun phrase indirect object. This would be a prepositional phrase indirect object in this case, because we're saying, to whom did you give a drink? You gave a drink to someone, it's the recipient. Okay, finally, what did you give a drunk? So you gave something to a drunk. So in this case, this is the direct object. So this one is a little tricky. You got to think a lot about what the original sentence was. So you kind of have to do movement in reverse. But with enough practice, it's pretty straightforward. And this is how you can form any WH question in English, no matter how complex the sentence is. So this is today's final structure. What will there be for dinner? The thing that we didn't have solved already was this bit right here. We knew there was an NP direct object, or sorry, an NP predicate nominal in this case because of the word be. We didn't know what it was, but we did know that we could replace it with the word what. And thanks to that, we can move it all the way up to the front of the sentence under the interrogative sentence. So that is today's final structure, and that's what we had left. What will there be for dinner? So here's an exercise. Draw the tree structure for the following sentence. Pause it, try it yourself, but let's do it on the next page. And what we're going to notice is that it might be a little bit harder to just draw a tree kind of like normally. So what I mean by that is it might be easier to start at the top with an interrogative sentence. So there's a few things that we need to figure out is like what is what. So the original sentence, and let's just type it out so we can think about it. What should have been happening? So this should have been happening or something. I don't know if it's the word this, but it should be something should have been happening. So we know that the what came from a subject position. So this is going to be an NP subject, and its label on what is going to be an interrogative pronoun. So from this, we can start the regular sentence, and we know, based on where the original subject started, that there was some movement here. So I'm just going to, the movement doesn't really look nice when it's labeled down on a sentence like this, but we can just maybe put an arrow like this to show it's moved up there. So now it should have been happening. So we now have a modal phrase predicate, and then everything else isn't really going to be that exciting from this point. So that's a modal. Have is going to be a perfect. Being is going to be a progressive. Happening is going to be a VI. So the perf will make a perfect phrase. The progressive will make a progressive phrase. And then the VI will make a verb phrase. So this is what the sentence looks like. Basically, what you have is you have the subject moving up for what should have been happening, and we have no auxiliary movement because we're moving up a subject.